we'll start it. Now waiting for video. Okay. All right, and we are ready in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Real Time Talk with Eagle 3D Streaming. I am Quentin Anderson, the host of today's show, and today we have with us Badrriya Henry. And just to briefly introduce Badrriya, she is the founder of Fashion Foresight, a company driven on connecting brands to solutions in an age of technology. She believes that brands should take advantage of tech that assists them in connecting and understanding their audiences in new ways that are relevant, allowing brands to be well prepared for a future that is driven in hybrid online and offline experiences, whether in retail stores or digitally in the metaverse. Badrriya, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, Quentin. Thanks for having me on this evening or
Yes,
morning at your
yes,
end.
yes. And we both have our coffees with us,
Yes,
so we should be all set, good to go. Thank you so much
definitely.
for joining us out of your busy schedule. Um, so I would love to hear a little
No
bit
problem.
more about your story. How did you end up creating Fashion Foresight? What were some of the steps leading up to that that you took in creating your metaverse?
Yeah, so Fashion Foresight started in about 2017, where I was trend forecasting for brands. And I had a natural evolution into technology as we were starting to use more advanced systems to do trend forecasting. And one of the forecasts at that time was that retail was going to change and change in a way that was more engaging with customers that came into a mall space. And being in the fashion industry, I felt like, brands weren't very much aware of this transition that was going to happen. And we see that it is happening. And of course, how do you make spaces more engaging was through XR technology. So VR experiences, AR experiences, digital touch points. And so through curiosity, I naturally looked into these types of technologies and kind of learned more about it and understood ways of how brands could connect with this technology. I established Fashion Foresight in Dubai in 2019. It was officially a licensed company. And then I think it was just towards the end of 2019 where I started to actually start doing experiments with XR technology. And then COVID hit. And we wanted to launch a fashion week at that time as well, which was Africa Fashion Week Middle East. And unfortunately, it wasn't possible in March 2020. But it was actually the best time to explore with the technology further. And we were discovering, well, what does a digital immersive fashion experience look like? And, one of my partners at that time was telling me, why don't you actually pitch the concept to Epic Games and see what happens? Like, what does a digital fashion week look like? And so we did the whole uh, pitch deck and we sent it through and they really loved it. They approved it. And that was pretty much our journey into a digital experience for fashion. At that time, the word metaverse wasn't a buzzword. It was just digital immersive fashion. And eventually, I think when it was Mark Zuckerberg who did this like metaverse announcement, and then the buzzwords started happening, and it seemed like it was almost like the stars aligned, and we were just in time to launch our project as well. And so it all came together quite seamlessly for us.
Mm. And so XR can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For you and your project, what does that mean to have an XR experience?
For us, it's an immersive experience. It's where the audience can actually be inside of an environment. Of course, we're also touching on AR. So we know that AR is also quite popular and creating brand filters, whether it's through an augmented reality experience through an app like Instagram, like TikTok, like Snapchat. And so how do you make valuable connections with consumers through that type of technology as well is quite important. We're also looking at geospatial when it comes to AR geospatial technologies. So I think, it's so many different ways to experiment and explore. But for us specifically, because, we launched the Fashion Week into an immersive environment using, Unreal Engine and having a digital in-browser experience, for us, that is what we are offering within the fashion industry.
And how did you decide to integrate Unreal Engine into your technology stack? Do you come from an Unreal Engine development background, or was it suggested, or how did that happen?
I don't come from a technology background. I come from a fashion background, but I took the initiative to be that connection between the fashion industry and the technology industry. And the reason being is because these industries are so far apart, they don't ever communicate with each other. The fashion industry doesn't know what technology is available out there, and the technology industry and developers, they have no interest in fashion whatsoever. But when the two come together, really amazing, beautiful experiences and solutions can come about. And so that's where I took the position of power to go ahead and say, well, I'm going to be that person that brings the two together. And so, in terms of Unreal Engine, because we had applied at that time to Epic Games, of course, naturally, we would use Unreal as a solution. And of course, for us, it was the most advanced solution to use in terms of gaming engine. Um, Also, I think because we were in the fashion industry, we knew that whatever experience we were creating had to be a high-end luxury experience. One, being based in Dubai, everything is always of the best and of the optimum. And of course, then being within the fashion industry, it had to be an experience that made sense for our industry as well. And so Unreal Engine became the obvious tool to use.
And I'd like to understand your fashion industry background a little bit more. I know that you mentioned that you noticed that customers were moving to more of immersive type experiences as their interest. How did you realize that? Were you keeping up with the studies, or were you also conducting research yourself, or how do you tie in specifically to the fashion industry?
Because at that time I was focusing on trend forecasts. So at that time we had the market research and the data that told us there were five drivers, global drivers, that was changing the world in the next 5 to 10 years. And technology was one of those drivers.
Wow.
Migration was one of them. Change of economies was one of them as well. And so we knew that there was going to be a shift within to the Middle East and Africa. And we knew there would be a shift with technology. And so, and with this kind of data, it's very powerful. And so we knew that, retail was going to change. It was already changing at that time where the malls were starting to become a little bit more quieter. People were shopping more online. And so when COVID happened, that became more of a reality. A lot of brands weren't ready for the pandemic, right? They were still questioning, is e-commerce the way to go when it was the data was obvious e-commerce is the way to go because here is the actual information that it's generating billions of dollars per year. So it wasn't a question if it was just a matter of it's going to happen, it's going to come. And so with COVID happening, I think, brands had to shuffle and kind of think on their feet and get, their digital transformation ready. And so it just kind of all seamlessly worked together to bring us to where we are now in terms of now more conversations happening around technology and taking it to the next level. Because yes, e-commerce is a solution, but at the same time, it's very cookie cutter for a lot of brands. And how do you make something very special and different and unique for your brand, especially when you're a premium luxury brand? And so that's where the metaverse or an immersive experience can change that narrative, where you're actually taking your audience on a journey or into a situation where you have their full attention, and you can tell them about each product and the journey of each product in a very intimate way.
And it's in an intimate way that's not necessarily possible with maybe a static 2D web page. Would you agree with that? Because, we have
Of
e-commerce
course,
where, I go to a web page and I see thumbnails of images, but what you're
mm,
describing is much, much more than that.
of course.
And why are consumers interested in that sort of next level experience from your experience?
I think consumers' curiosity.
Hmm.
Also, with the new generation, millennials and Gen Z now having more of the buying power, the way they interact and engage is very different.
Hmm.
Them being a generation that's grown up with digital mobile devices and being exposed to everything and having things instantly at their fingertips. It's a very different generation to get their attention and to get their trust. And so, on Instagram and TikTok, you have less than 3 seconds to get a Gen Z's attention,
Wow. Yeah.
which is what the data is telling us. Whereas an immersive experience, you've got their attention for a good 10, 20 minutes. How do you put value on that compared to 3 seconds, right?
Right.
So, so it's a big difference if you're able to create an experience that's really awesome and connects in such an interesting and interactive way. Why not do that? Why not create that experience?
Got it. And now it makes sense to me because it's kind of a matter of attention and trying to maintain the attention of the consumers you're trying to target. Um, you know,
Not
ten.
just the attention, but I feel also showing them the value of your brand and making them a part of a journey and a story. So many things are possible. They can become a part of the brand. Now we're looking at NFT and blockchain. So they can become a part of the brand by having these digital assets and trading them and um, maybe gamifying them. And
Mm,
so, what does that journey look like where now my consumer is loyal and a part of the brand? Because they have an invested interest in it, right? So that's also a whole different conversation that can happen.
right, right. Including them in the brand per se, or,
Yes,
or allowing them to have their own experience and take on the brand, perhaps.
definitely. Yeah.
So, so when you created Fashion Foresight, then how did this all come together? What was your, with all this knowledge and understanding that you have, how did you translate that into a product, an XR product for consumers?
I think we're actually discovering that answer towards the end of 2022 and now into 2023
Hmm.
because people are just more open to understanding and discovering. It was a little bit more difficult before, when you had to educate exactly what you were trying to say. When we first pitched an immersive digital fashion experience, people were like, especially in the fashion industry, is this actually possible? Like, what you're telling me, is that real? And they didn't quite connect what we were trying to do. Epic Games understood it immediately because naturally being in the gaming world and being immersed in that world, they knew exactly what we were trying to do and what we were trying to build. So we didn't have to overly explain, what we wanted to do. Um, but now people are more open to the conversation, and we're able to now, using your guys' solution, 3D Eagle streaming, we can now, instead of just talking about it, we can actually take people and say, you know what, here's the link, go and look at what we built, and go and explore. And once they realize it and what is possible, then the imagination starts running wild. So people are like, oh, I can create different avatars. I can, bring my brand to life in a different way. When we had connected with a gaming event in Australia, I think it was in 2021, when the designers started to see what was possible, their imaginations just ran wild because there was a sunglasses brand that said, oh well, you know what, the theme around my brand is about the ocean and conservation, so I could have an octopus on someone's head and it comes to life. And we were like, yeah, you can actually do that in the metaverse if that's what the story you want to tell about your brand. And so once people understand it and they connect the dots, that's it. A designer exactly knows what they want to do.
Gotcha. So it's providing them the understanding or breaking through that barrier of not really knowing what's possible, providing them that understanding, and then their imagination runs wild from there.
Definitely.
It would be wonderful if you have anything that we could potentially see, a screen share perhaps, or anything related
Sure.
to your metaverse.
Sure. So, one of our first projects is, of course, Africa Fashion Week Middle East,
Hmm.
that we launched in March 2023 here in DIFC
Hmm.
in Dubai.
Hmm.
And so we're so proud of it because it's the first not only Dubai-based fashion week that has an immersive experience, but also African, which is a very powerful statement that
Hmm.
because being South African myself, it was always this this digital transformation and global disruption that's happening. We thought Africa will be left behind, and I thought, what, why not be that person that's like, no, actually, let's put Africa into the narrative. I'm based somewhere that has access, and I have access, and so why not put that story in there?
So
Um,
cool.
and so and so we did it. We were just like, okay, we're going to do it, and we built it. And I'll show you what our showroom, Africa Fashion Week showroom, looks like.
Awesome.
And then you can go into the experience through one of your links that you guys have provided for us. So hold on, let me just.
Great.
So I can screen share from here. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
So this is the Fashion Week showroom that we created, which we're very proud of.
Awesome.
And you can enter through. So it's set on a rooftop in Dubai, and it has, I think, about 3 floors, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And each floor is dedicated to an Arab or African designer. They can be based anywhere in the world. And of course, this is now brand awareness to designers that you would have never heard of before,
Hmm.
which by their own right should be known because they are really good at what they do.
Awesome.
And and so each area can be dedicated to a different designer where we share their story and share their current collection. Obviously, it's kind of just the launch of it. So we're going to take it further where now there's more interaction happening inside of the showroom.
Hmm.
Someone asked us, well, could purchases happen? And we were like, of course, eventually we'll have some purchase ability. Right now we're experimenting with NFT into environments. How do we place NFTs into an immersive world? So we've tested a few solutions and they work really well. So we will launch that a little bit later. So, sky's the limit at the moment. We've also done something that's really awesome in regards to using Fortnite, and we then took the the showroom and we put it into a Fortnite environment. We're creating a beautiful island there, which will be launched soon as well.
Cool.
I can show you that if you like.
Would love to see it.
Let me just find the video 1 second.
And while you're searching for that video, one of the thoughts that came into my mind is how did you go about choosing the designers that you included in your metaverse? Do you also have an eye for fashion? And you sort of knew designers that would
Right.
be a good fit, or how, or what was your decision process?
Our decision process. So within Africa Fashion Week, we have 5 founders. And so I take care of technology and strategy.
Hmm.
And so there's criteria. So a brand has to be so many years old. It has to at least have so many collections already released, etc., for us to put them into different categories from established to startup. And so from there, we then understand which brands we want to place into our metaverse. And so these are brands that we know back in South Africa, back in Africa, and then locally based here in Dubai. So we know them personally. We've worked with them, and so it was just a easy connect for us because getting the right information, it was just all about, well, what do you need? What do we need to give you to bring this to life? And so we were just like, we need images, we need video footage, we need a 3D model certain things, and so working with them was just a little bit more easier and flexible. And so that's pretty much how we ended up with our designers in the showroom. And then I think it is three of them that physically took part in our fashion week here in Dubai as well in March.
Oh, cool.
So
So
yeah, and then
that's
two
the
of them weren't
hybrid.
physically here. So that's the hybrid. Yeah, that's the hybrid part exactly. Okay, so I'll show you the next
Yes. Let's have a look.
1 second. Let me see. So yeah, so we're experimenting with our Fortnite island that we created.
Okay.
Of course, being a part of now the Epic Games community, we have a lot of opportunity and a lot of access to experiment and explore.
Cool.
And so we decided to just go ahead with it once again and look at creating an island that made sense where we're telling a certain narrative, which we'll launch a little bit later. What the narrative is that we're trying to connect with younger audiences. And if you see in the corner somewhere, you'll see Africa Fashion Week showroom, which is just there.
Cool.
And we're going to see how far this can go. We don't know yet, but we know that we're always experimenting and we're always creating new, interesting experiences. So this is one of our projects at the moment that's in
Oh,
focus.
cool.
I don't know if you play Fortnite or if
Of
you if
course I play Fortnite. Yes.
yeah, okay.
Oh yeah.
So of course the assets and the skins, etc. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna try and let our brands access that and tell a very African story. And let's see what happens. It's still very new and very young for us.
So cool. So, in your design of the venues, are you using um, real buildings as references for your designs, or is it totally imaginary, or what is your process for designing your venues,
For our
showrooms?
design, for our building. So, so for us, it was what our imagination kind of creates, and then it was how do we build on existing assets that we had. Um, because we did come to a crossroad of do we duplicate real world buildings or do we create our own? And for us, it was let's create our own because why have a metaverse and then duplicate the real world when you could use your imagination and let it run wild? And so that's what we pretty much want to focus on is creating buildings that are absolutely insane and cool and interesting as opposed to duplicating what you see in the real world, which is kind of why would we want to do that? It's kind of a little bit boring. It's the same when people ask me about avatars, like, can I have an avatar of myself? And then we noticed that actually more people wanted an alter ego in the
Hmm.
metaverse. They don't want to be themselves in the metaverse. They want to be something crazy and interesting and something that is within themselves that they want to express in a different way.
Cool.
And so we feel like that's more interesting.
Yeah, and that reminds me of Ready Player One, where the movie where everyone in there is not a clone of themselves. They're expressing certain aspects of themselves in interesting ways.
Yes. In another kind of digital R&D that we were doing,
Mhm.
experiment, let's say, with digital try-on, what we notice is that people don't actually like to look at themselves as an avatar. It
Hmm.
kind of freaks them out. It's almost like watching yourself on video or on camera, and you kind of like get taken aback. It's that moment. They would prefer to see an avatar that kind of looks like them but isn't them.
Yeah, yeah, like I want to be in a Spider-Man costume or something in the
Yeah,
metaverse.
something like that. Yeah, it
So,
was quite interesting.
so when you're approaching these brands, then how are these conversations going? Is the first one unlocking their imagination, and then what's usually happening after that, or how are you finding the conversation progressing?
So we're finding that still a lot of education is needed. We've actually decided to partner with one of the consulting companies that we work closely with here as well, where we're creating specific frameworks for metaverse.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Badrriya.
Strategy. Uh, Is it
Oh,
okay now, Quentin?
yes, yes. Now you're back.
Okay, better. So, what I was saying is that we're actually building certain frameworks where a brand can create a strategy for the metaverse. Because we know that they're very curious about it and they want to kind of use it, but they're not sure how. We're also looking, what are the various different types of ROI, which is very important.
Hmm.
Sometimes the ROI is not monetary. Sometimes the ROI is just marketing, PR, education, simulation, sometimes just the data that they want to extract. So depending on what is their strategy and what they need to do, we're kind of creating frameworks that brands could follow. So the journey is still quite long, but at least if they have some kind of framework, the easier and quicker they can get into the metaverse or what is now the evolution of the internet.
Hmm. And speaking of sort of the evolution of the internet and the metaverse, what do you think if we had a crystal ball, what do you think the metaverse is going to look like in 3 years from now?
In three
I know
years.
it's yeah, I know it's a very tricky question, but I'd love to hear your opinion.
Okay. I think we'll obviously have more immersive in-browser experiences.
Mm,
I think websites will become a little bit more advanced in terms of a more personalized or customized experience. I think that would be very interesting. I think with AI, that that will be more possible and accessibility will be possible.
mm,
I think in 3 years we would have more discussions on countries or developing countries that need to have more access. I think that those are very important conversations to have. I think regulations are important conversations to have, especially if we want this technology to move in the right direction and move quite quickly. I think those are very important conversations. I think um, I think blockchain will take the position it needs to take. After all, all the bad actors have faded away, and and we no longer have, the stronger projects are around. I think
right.
we will start to see the real power of blockchain.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And we're already running up towards the end of our half hour. I know
Okay.
it goes super super fast. Is
Yes.
there anything else you'd like to share about your project or any other thoughts that are coming to mind?
Um, Not currently. I mean, we're having the Fashion Week. We're trying to aim and work for it to come again in October 2023. So we're working towards that. So we're
Hmm.
looking to have a new experience by that time. We're launching a few new projects in regards to the entertainment world and where celebrities can connect with their fans and have immersive VIP rooms and experiences. That's going to be interesting. But other than that, we're just, working really hard, trying to bring more awareness, trying to have brands come more into the space and make it more accessible to them. I think that's very important at the moment.
And for anyone that would like to connect with you afterwards, what's the best way to reach you?
I think LinkedIn would be absolutely the best way to reach me.
Got it.
Yeah.
Um, Badrriya, thank you so much for joining us out of your busy schedule to be on our show and share a little bit about your background and your project. Um, any other closing comments or?
No, that's it. I hope, to connect with you guys soon and bring more projects to come to life. And obviously, we want to connect your guys' solution, Eagle 3D streaming. We want to connect more to the Dubai community and try and bring projects more into an in-browser experience. So we look forward to working closely with you guys as well.
Yes, and we are deeply honored to be supporting your project. And
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
Yes, thank you for being on our platform. I'm Quentin Anderson with Eagle 3D Streaming. This is Real Time Talk. Thank you everyone for joining today's show, and we will catch you on the next one. And Badrriya, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Quentin. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks everyone. See you next show.
Bye.
Goodbye.